Hey HCG family, it's Mimi. I am checking in because I usually don't get an opportunity to do it in the weekend, and I know a lot of people don't do a lot of vlogging on the weekend too, or on Fridays. So I try to, when I get up, not to look at everybody's vlogs on Friday in the morning because I want to have something to do in the evening time, and unfortunately I haven't been able to constrain myself. So anyway, just let you know I'm on day 5 of the very low calorie protocol, and so far I've lost 5.2 pounds. I'm not yet down to my original last dose weight, which was 196. So hopefully tomorrow I might be there. The last 2 days my releases have been 0.8, and so that's good. I'm happy with that. You know, they usually start slowing down. I've never had like I think maybe once I've had like not this time, maybe a 2-pound release, but never had the 2-pound, 3 pounds, but I've had 1.8. I've done 1.8. That's usually about the highest I go. So anyway, just letting you know about that. Like I said, day 5, I'm 197.4. That's what I was this morning. So trucking along. I also wanted to make a comment about the conversation I think that Hebby and also Carol I thought was very interesting about phase 3. I knew from the very beginning how important phase 3 was. And the first time when I did HCG a couple years ago, and I had lost weight, I got down, I think my last dose weight was 179 point something. And anyway, I stabilized. I mean, because I immediately started eating fat, because that's what I was taught to do, was eat fat. And I mean, I was eating salmon and fried in butter and sour cream and whipping cream and bacon and eggs and all those good things. I was just eating. I wasn't counting calories, and I stabilized. And from what I can understand, from what I believe, I stabilized the whole time. I mean, there were times that the scale did not budge. It just didn't even go up. I had no steak day. There was no correction day. It never went above 2 pounds. I don't even think it went above a pound. Unfortunately, I allowed myself to go into what you want to call the phase 4, and we'll use that just to be able to talk about the separation of the time you start adding in other foods. I did not do that properly. I didn't say, you know what, I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put on a pot of beans, and I'm going to go ahead and try a little bowl of pinto beans or black beans, or I'm going to have a sweet potato or a baked potato, or I'm going to have a little bit of pasta. I didn't do that. I allowed myself to go back and to continue eating wrong again. So in my thought, and this is me, is for about me. I'm talking to me. I believe that my body is not going to be able to, I don't care how well I maintain in P3, that I am not going to be able to eat or indulge in a whole lot of, if any, processed foods and not suffer a consequence of it. That means if I go to Olive Garden, I decide to go ahead and have a small portion of fettuccine Alfredo, it's going to make me put the weight on immediately, and it's not going to come back off. I believe I'm going to be very careful of the processed foods. And when you go out to a restaurant, unless you're going to a restaurant that prides themselves in fresh foods, seasonal foods, organic foods, foods that are cooked properly, and if you don't go in the intention of saying, I'm going to try to find something on this menu that I can eat that I know is not going to bother me and affect my weight. If you're not diligent about that, I believe if I'm not diligent about that, I'm going to put the weight back on, because that's just the way it is. I just can't do that. And so I have to come to grips with that and the reality that, okay, when we talk about holidays and when we talk about certain things, that if there's other people, normally skinny people, that can get by with eating unhealthy foods and not gain any weight, that does not mean that it's not having a negative effect on their insides. We know that there's a lot of skinny, unhealthy people out there. I tried to tell my son this. My son was a sugarholic. I mean, he Sour Patch Kids, candy, sugar. And he would say, well, I'm not gaining any weight, so there must not be anything wrong with it. I'm like, you know what? You might not gain weight. I mean, you're young. You're still young. I mean, I don't know how it's going to affect your body, when you're in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, if you don't learn how to change your diet. You can stay skinny and still be, death eating a cracker, buddy. You can be in bad shape. So if we think that putting toxin foods in our body, and just because it's not making us fat, is not having an adverse effect on us, we'd be wrong. So I know that I have to change what I'm putting in my mouth, and I have to be more diligent about what I'm doing. I have to get that in my head. This is what I've got to get in my head. I've got to get in my head that, okay, if I eat out, which is every once in a while, especially when I go on vacation, if I go on vacation. Now, fortunately, most of the time, if, we go, if we stay at like a lodge or something like that, or even in a hotel, I've got to be diligent to make the best choice for my body. And that can be very difficult when you're out on the road. It can be very difficult when you work. And what happens is that we don't have the time. We have to make the time to prepare foods that are good for our body. And that's another difficult thing, because even though we have all of this food at our fingertips and we can just go to the grocery store, we're not out gathering and hunting like we used to back in the good old days. And you gathered and you hunted for the food that was available in that season. Now, you can get strawberries all winter long. Well, we all know how bad strawberries taste when you get them when they're out of season. They don't have any taste. And I can just about bet they have no nutritional value to them. I could be wrong. I'm not a scientist and I'm not a nutritionist. But just from the stuff that I am learning, because I want this to be a way of life, I do not want to have to go back and do this again. So, so the thing is what I've been doing, that I continue to do, that I was doing on P3, and what I did, I was using, before I went on the protocol, my first round, which is, I'm talking about this round, because there's been 2 other rounds, believe it or not, that I'm not even talking about. The one that I was talking about that I stabilized and phase 3 and had no problem, I just, because I didn't pay attention to what my body was telling me. And my body was saying that you cannot continue to indulge every weekend on these foods. So anyway, I was already, before I started, when I went back on the protocol this time, back in January this year, I was already using coconut oil to cook with. I stopped using olive oil to cook with because olive oil does not take heat properly. And when you use olive oil to cook in, it sounds healthy, but it is not. The whole whatever, that's in the olive oil, when heat hits it, it breaks down, and it almost turns it into that it's toxic. It's not good for you. And so then I found out about coconut oil, the organic kind, and I had already found out and had been researching about that, and so I started buying the coconut oil, and I gradually started, it can handle high heat. It's still very good for you. I didn't even really take into consideration. I didn't look at what the calories were. I didn't know anything about it being a medium chain triglyceride. These are the stuff I didn't really pay any attention to the science. All I was finding out about was the benefits of the coconut oil. So anyway, I started cooking with it, and, just whether if it was frying eggs in it, no matter. If I was going to fry something, that's what I was using it for. And I only used the olive oil for salad dressing and mixing that with balsamic vinegar or whatever the vinegar of my choice was. So when I went on the protocol on phase 2, when I started listening to vlogs, people were talking about eating coconut oil on phase 2. So I thought, Now, then I kind of was like researching, and then I found out too that it also helps with weight loss. So, because it has a filling effect. Now, I knew that was true because I was already putting it in my coffee. I was putting like a teaspoon in my coffee already with my whipping cream and with my organic sugar. And I could have a cup of coffee, and I just would if I had 2 cups, I only put it in 1 cup. But I could have that cup of coffee, and it would be like 4 o'clock in the afternoon before I was hungry. I wasn't even thinking about food. For some reason, it just made me have a full feeling. So anyway, I was kind of curious about that, and I did message Robin Woodall, and I had asked her about it, and she asked, well, why, if you're on the protocol, why do you want to use it to lose weight? And I explained to her that I had already been using the coconut oil and had already been adding that to my diet before I went on HCG. So she had replied back to me and told me that she didn't know the science. I had told her, a little bit of the information that I had found out about it. But if my body was already adjusting to it and I was already using it and it was done fine, that, you have to see how your body, reacts to it. So I continued. Then I didn't put it in my coffee, but I started using it to cook my meats and some of my vegetables. If I fry my meat in the skillet, if I'm cooking my chicken in the skillet and I add all my seasonings to it, I put a little bit of coconut oil in there. I like about a teaspoon. And I will cook my chicken in there, and when my chicken is cooked, I will pull the chicken out, put that on a plate, and then I will add my asparagus, I will add my cabbage, I will add my radishes, and so I don't add more oil to it. I will just cook them in the same pan, and that way it kind of and put a lid over it, kind of let a little steam build up there, and it kind of deglazes the pan from the coconut oil and also from whatever spices that were left from cooking the chicken. So that's how I prepare my food, and that's about how much coconut oil I'm using. Now, last round I lost 23.4 pounds. I think I was on it for 30 days. I did not weigh after that. When I went on to phase 3, I did my last dose weight, which was 196, and I didn't weigh again after that. Well, when I finally did weigh, I was already back up to like 198, 199. I did a steak day. It brought me back down. I was like 199. It brought me down to like 198 point something. I could look it up, but I'm not going to take time to do it. So, anyway, from that time on, my body would not go back down to 196. Now all I did was one steak day, and then I did that fat fast, and I did the fat fast improperly. I'm not saying that fat fast would not work. I guarantee it works, because there's, too many people out there that have done it. And so and I'm talking about phase 3. I wouldn't personally advise doing anything like that on phase 2, but anyway, I didn't do it properly. Shot me back up to 200. And the whole time I was on phase 3, I did not eat any. I don't eat fruit on phase 3. I just personally take it out. I'm an old time Atkins. I was doing Atkins back in the 80s. I mean, I had my daughter got it off the bookmobile. One time when she was little, she took her brother and sister over there. I read the whole book in a day. Went to the grocery store, bought all the things, the foods. I mean, you didn't have Atkins bars. You didn't have all these Atkins products. It was just plain old recipe food and eating meat and some vegetables in that. So lost 50 pounds on that. So I truly understand about a fat fast. I understand you're eating fat like that and how that works. I understand, Atkins. I mean, he was a cardiologist, and he had come to some conclusions on his own that, hey, I'm putting these patients on diets and these low-fat diets, and it is not helping them at all. So, anyway, I said all that to say this. I'm going to continue to use the coconut oil to cook my foods in. I also have been using this coconut sugar, and I told you all about that before. I had ordered this. Now, I've been using this in my coffee. I started using it. Went back to using Sweet and Low in my coffee on my first round. And what concerned me is using artificial sweeteners. And am I getting my body used to the artificial? Oh, it's my husband. I'll call him back in a second. Anyway, so I've decided in phase 2, I have been using this. I have been using this coconut sugar. I've been using a tablespoon of it in my coffee. Sometimes I have 1 cup, sometimes I have 2 cups. It actually has 15 calories in 1 teaspoon. So, he probably thinks I'm out with the dog. I knew you'd say that. I knew you'd say that. You're probably out with the dog. No, I've got the dog in jail because the dog won't go to the restroom outside. Anyway, I have continued to use this on phase 2. And because I want my body to recognize this. That is the bottom line. I want my body to recognize it. Just like Carol was talking about the grissini and the Melba toast, I can do without a grissini and a Melba toast. I know that my body is not going to handle those kind of carbohydrates because the grissini is refined white flour and the Melba toast is about the same. But that doesn't mean that when I go out to a restaurant that I'm never going to eat the croutons in my salad or I'm never going to order some pasta. But what it does mean for my life and my lifestyle is eating out is going to have to be a rare thing unless I go to a restaurant, like when I went to Bonefish, then I can get fresh fish and I can get vegetables. and I'm not going to get anything to where a whole lot of something has had to be done with it, before it comes to the table. That means I see what I see. I'm getting a piece of fish. I see it's a piece of fish. I see the asparagus. I see, this is the vegetable. If I get broccoli, if I get, you see what I'm saying? I'm saying it's got to be food that I can recognize. So I have to make up my mind that, okay, when I go out to eat, where am I going to go out to eat? And then what am I going to order? Is it a place that's going to be able to prepare food that my body will recognize? Because I don't want to go back to the same eating habits. And I can't believe somebody was, I can't remember. Let me have a drink. I have a full glass this time. Excuse me. I didn't want this to last this long, but anyway, what was I saying? Oh, I was listening to somebody's blog, and I was reading the comments, and Mama Clock had made a comment, and we know Mama Clock's, she doesn't make a whole lot of comments, or on the people that, on my particular HCG family. But anyway, she had talked about, your life after HCG. She alluded to the fact you will never be able to go back and eat junk processed food and not gain weight. I don't care how well you stabilize in phase 3. You're just not going to be able to do it. Your body is not going to say it can handle this junk and processed food and flours and sugars and those kind of things. And then you eat it, and then the next day your body's just going to go right back to your set point, that your hypothalamus reset. Now, if it does that, it might do it. Maybe the first couple of times. I don't know. I don't know if I want to put it to the test, because I had already done that and found out that that's not so. I was kind of like, I put the blinders on, after I'd lost that weight and I was feeling so good, and I didn't even look at it that I was in phase 4, because I hadn't made plans to go ahead and continue on HCG again. I couldn't mentally go back and do phase 2 again, do another round. That's what I'm saying. So I think that you always have to be diligent and pay very, very close attention to what you're going to be able to eat, regardless. Because this is, if I remember correctly, and Dr. Simeon's, in his paper that he did, he had repeat customers. And he didn't have repeat customers because they had 200 pounds to lose. He had repeat customers because they had gained 10, 15, 20 pounds. They went back to him because they continued. It doesn't matter how well that their hypothalamus had set, he had repeat customers that they come back. So the reason is that they had to, and even back then, and in some of them, and especially if you were in Rome at that time, if you're over there, they had fresh markets, they had fresh foods. Processed. I doubt if there was a McDonald's there yet. So we can take all of our processed foods and sugars and flours and see what's happening, by putting them in these other countries that used to indulge in fresh meat, that hadn't been hormonally challenged, and fresh vegetables that were seasonal. If strawberries were in season, then you had strawberries all the time on the table. When the strawberries went out of season and the apples came in season, then you had apples on the table all the time. You made apple stuff, you made apple pies, you made apple things. The thing is with the flours, the flour is the wheat that flour is made from is not natural. It's not normal. So the bread back then was different. It wasn't processed like we process it now. So I did know that I could eat the Ezekiel bread, the flatbreads, the Ezekiel bread that's the sprouted breads, that I could eat that. I could have a quesadilla and eat that. And I was fine with that. I mean, I ate that, it didn't bother me. So it's making our minds up that this is what we're going to have to do and be very careful and pace ourselves. So I just wanted to, just to kind of make a comment about it. Because this is, it is for real. And phase 3 is very important to reset your hypothalamus, and you don't want to jack around with it, and you don't want to, none of us want to cheat. It's, we don't say, hey, I want to cheat today. It's, it's not easy. This is just not something that's so simple. And, if it was, everybody would be doing it, and everybody would be such a huge success on it and not have problems. But I personally, that's just me. That's just my opinion. So I'm sorry that it's so long. I just hope everybody, we all find our way. We all find our the path and what works for us and what's going to work for our bodies. And because it's so easy for us to, to write things in stone. Especially women, we make plans, and we got to have a plan. We plan it out, but we know that things don't always go according to plan. So anyway, I hope this wasn't too long and too boring and too not so funny. And I don't know if I mentioned to Lori, Fluff No More, I tried to comment. I've tried to comment a couple of times on your blog, and it wouldn't let me. It kept showing error, so I don't know. So hopefully your next one I'll be able to do it. You're doing good. You cracked me up, especially when you talked about, going to the bathroom. I know Lynn had just did a thing about people, talking, TMI, and she was talking about going to the bathroom and that she weighed herself, and then she went to the bathroom and she lost, but then she just decided to keep her first weight. I have done that exact same thing, and I got back on the scale and I weighed more. So that doesn't work for me. I would thought, my gosh, I have lost 20 pounds. There's been some time I said 20 pounds. I'm done. This is it, and got on there and actually gained. As my husband says, you need to go in there and weigh yourself again. I'm like, all right. So I finally went in and did it, and I said, I wish I would have never done that. I said, I am actually up. I have gained weight after going to the bathroom. So anyway, I tried to comment about that, and I thought that would only happen to me, go to the bathroom and gain weight. So I think I do gain weight when I watch diners, drive-ins, and dives. I'm sorry. I just believe. I think, it releases leptin or whatever because your mouth starts watering and your stomach starts growling. So I think there is a physical reaction when we watch cooking shows. So I stopped watching cooking shows while I'm on phase 2. So, all right, guys, it's too long. Love you, HCG family. Here's a hug. Like my sister says, come on, let's hug it out. Let's hug. Come on over here and let's hug it out.